And I am here as usual, though today is not a usual day. Today is e-newsletter day, and we have a lot of stuff going on in today's e-newsletter. Um, yeah, there's just a lot to cover today. We have three new products, three completely new lines of products, really. Not completely new, but existing lines of products. We have existing products with new products within those lines. And we have a bunch of restocks as well that people have been asking for a long time. Some of which you might already know about if you have requested a back in stock notification. Good morning, Tony. Thank you for joining me today. First person to join in the comments. Feel free to, as always, ask me anything as long as it's not a spoiler question. I'm happy to help out. Kevin, George, Chad, good morning. So, I have a link in the description of this video. I'll use that on the YouTube version as well in case you want to scroll along and see what I'm looking at. But I'm going to go through the e-newsletter and talk about everything that's going on there because there is a lot going on, and I'll answer your questions as we go. I see Mark is joining us today too. The first thing is that we now have something that I announced a while ago, which are vision-friendly versions of Wingspan cards. And I should clarify right off the bat, in case this is confusing, hopefully it isn't, but these are packs of cards that are designed to be vision-friendly. These can replace the cards in your Wingspan game, or Wingspan expansions if you want. If there's a Wingspan expansion that you want only the bird cards for, as we often hear when we release a new expansion, this is a way to get just those cards. This new format for the cards in Wingspan is not replacing the original format. So if you buy a Wingspan expansion 3 years down the road, the format of those cards will be the same. These packs are independent of that. They are mechanically the same, but we have redesigned them to make them much more vision friendly. They're bolder, the icons are bigger and darker, there's less visual clutter. We've even redone the wingspan of the cards. You can see down here, we've reformatted this to make it easier to read. They are significantly easier to read than the original Wingspan cards, and we've organized them by continent. So if you want just the Oceania cards, you can get that. If you want just the core game cards, you can get that. They're on all of our web stores now. If you have any problems getting them, let me know. But we consulted with a few different people to design these cards. I'm really excited about them. I'm really excited to play with them. I have mine in my closet of wonders back here right now, but I haven't actually played a game with them. It's just been I've tested them, but not a full game. But yeah. So we have these vision-friendly cards. We're always looking to make our games more accessible so we can bring more joy to more tabletops worldwide, and this is one of the ways that we're doing it. If you have any questions about these cards, let me know. I can hold up more cards to the camera if you'd like. Good morning, Nathan, Dan. Tim's joining us live for the first time. That's awesome, Tim. Jay says, so Jay has a question about the next thing that I want to show you. Let me show it to you, and then I'll answer Jay's question. We have 4 new promo packs for Rolling Realms. I talked about these on the Livecast before if you've been watching, because we released these in person at Geekway to the West recently, and they're now available on our web store. We have Skulk Hollow. We have, I'll save that one for last. We have Tricarian, a Parks themed realm. These are all for Rolling Realms. And then Beyond the Realmiverse, a 4-chapter replayable solo campaign for Rolling Realms. And let's see what Jay asked. He says, with Welcome to the Realmiverse, does it require markings on the cards? If 2 people want to play through simultaneously, would we need 2 packs? Yes, because it is a solo pack here, Jay. Designed for solo play. It isn't designed for 2 players to use. But the cards are all dry erase, so you can play through the campaign yourself, and then if you say your roommate, your partner wants to play through, nothing's permanent. That's why it's completely replayable. You can see right on the packaging, it is replayable. So you can't play simultaneously with someone else. It's a solo pack, but you can use the same pack for multiple people after you are done with your 4-chapter campaign if you want to hand it off to someone else. I hope that makes sense. It's designed to be solo playable though, but also fully replayable. Let's see if there's any other questions here. I hear my cat outside. Oh, okay, Megan's going to let Biddy back in. Justin says, ever think of a vision unfriendly version for our friends who don't like the bird theme? Maybe just use small text throughout the card that describes the bird with boring detail. I guess that's a joke. Yeah, no, not going to do that. Tom says, just ordered the new promo realms, and now I'm off to buy an anniversary gift. Sorry, Facebook keeps scrolling. Anniversary gift for my wife for tomorrow, but sometimes Stonemaier purchases come first. Thanks, Tom, for doing that. And yeah, I'm excited to share these realms with you. I hope you enjoy them. What else is going on here? Nathan says, we played Wingspan this week. Our game night was bookended with Stonemaier games, started with Red Rising and finished with Wingspan. Yeah, this was Red Rising's anniversary. So thank you, Nathan, for playing along over the anniversary weekend, the 2-year anniversary for Red Rising. This reminds me of the last thing that I wanted to mention. Actually, it doesn't have much to do with Red Rising, but I don't want to forget. The other new product that we have, and I only have it on my screen here. I don't have the disc yet, because we have 2 new discs inspired by Smitten and by Expeditions. It's a Highlander disc and it's a Kitten disc inspired by Smitten. Both have art by Miles Bensky, who, this is why I thought of it, because Miles did the art, or some of the art, for Red Rising. I don't have these discs yet because they just arrived at our fulfillment center in the US, I think yesterday, maybe today. And so they're ready to ship from the US. We don't have them in our other web stores yet. But and I haven't even seen the disc in person. I've only seen photos of them and images of them. So I'm excited to play with them, play disc golf with them. But if you are getting into disc golf, if you are trying to play disc golf or want to try it for the first time, these are 2 great discs to try out. Both are drivers. The Kitten is a fairway driver, and the Highlander is inspired by the Valkyrie disc. So the Kitten is inspired by the Leopard disc from Innova, and Highlander is inspired by the Valkyrie disc. That is a distance drive. I'm excited to try both of them to see how they fly. Jeff says, so happy the vision-friendly cards are out and ordered. He says, now my brother and I can introduce our 91-year-old mom to Wingspan. And Jeff, that's exactly why we made these cards. A lot of people, I think more than 50% of people wear glasses or have some sort of small or large vision impairment. So we wanted to make this game more accessible to them, especially as people get older and their eyes get older, the cards become harder to see. Whether they're right in front of us or on the table or, in the card row, which is halfway across the table sometimes when you're playing Wingspan. Steve said, wait, is the solo pack out now on the Stonemaier site? Yes. All the stuff that I'm talking about today is on our web store right now. We have direct links. If you look in the description of this video, you can click through to the e-newsletter and then go to links to all these products. Yeah, so we have the new discs, the new promo packs for Rolling Realms, and the new vision-friendly card packs for Wingspan. George says, for a moment, I thought there was a... Okay, George. So George is mentioning something. Sometimes if you click on some of the links on our e-newsletter, you might go by default to the US store. You should be redirected to your local store. But if you aren't, just look in the upper right-hand corner and you can change the location of your web store, because we have a separate web store for each of our fulfillment centers. The US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Asia all in one, and then Europe all in one as well. My coworker Susanna is here today. Susanna, I hope you're doing well. Steven says, how about a touch-friendly pack where the cards feel like the actual birds? Love that falcon feel, or that feathery feel. That would be cool to have a feathery feel to cards. I guess we kind of have that with the linen embossing in our cards, but it is a little different than an actual feather. Sam says, for the new promo realms, have you shown the realms themselves yet? I'm hoping to see them and may have missed the video where you show them individually. I'm particularly curious how the campaign works. So Sam, we have all the information about the realms in the living rulebook that we post on our website. So you can go to our website, and that's been live for a few weeks now. If you go to the Rolling Realms page of our website, you can click through and see what the realms look like and read how they work, including a rulebook for the solo realm. All that should be, let's see, I'll click through to make sure it is where it should be, Sam. And there are photos on our web store too. You can check it out there. Here, I'll click over to Rolling Realms and look at, let's see where we link. Oh, it's on the rules and FAQ page for Rolling Realms. That should take you through to the Rolling Realms rulebook. Yeah, the rules and FAQ page on the Rolling Realms page of our website, the very first link says the Rolling Realms rulebooks are available for download. That will take you to a Dropbox folder where you can see the, you have to click through again, actually. You have to click through to Rolling Realms and then to the rulebooks. But at the rulebooks page, you can see the living rulebook, which was updated actually just yesterday by Corel. So you can see the promo rulebook there. Chad says, how surprised are you that the disc golf discs have taken off so well? I love that little surprise. I do too. Yeah, I'm delighted. Sometimes with these April Fool's products, we just do one print run and that's good enough. Sometimes I think we still have some on our web store from quite some time ago. But the disc golf discs, we've made them, made like 5 or 6 printings of some of the discs. just recently I was walking around on a great course in St. Louis called Unger, and I ran into two different people who recognized me from Stonemaier games and recognized they were playing disc golf out there, and they both had Stonemaier discs that they were playing with, which was awesome to see. So I love that gamers are trying out this wonderful dexterity game of disc golf, and I love that there's crossover between the disc golf world and the tabletop gaming world. Makes me happy. I played twice this past weekend. I had to watch out. I usually don't play twice in a row because my arm is old and rickety. But I did play twice this past weekend because Megan, her parents were in town, and her brother and sister-in-law now live in town. So we all went out for two different disc golf excursions this past weekend. We also had some really good food. We played a little bit of sabacc. We went to a place called Bowwood here in St. Louis. We went to Clementine's to get ice cream, and we went to Sasha's Wine Bar on Demund and had some wonderful food there. So good weekend of disc golf and gaming and food. Lots of good exercise. We had a wonderful, beautiful weekend here in St. Louis. Carell is actually here. Carell is the person who maintains the Rolling Realms living rulebook and is the lead designer for many of these realms. Some of these realms that I just mentioned have other lead designers as well. So Carell is the lead designer for the Rolling Realms Beyond the Realmiverse solo replayable campaign. Cameron Art is the lead designer for the Parks realm. Carell was the developer for it. Jonathan Hobson was the designer for the Tricarian realm, also developed by Carell. And Eduardo Baraf of Pencil First Games was the designer of Skulk Hollow, again developed by Carell. Yeah, so many new things on our web store today. We also have some restocks. So we have the Scythe Legendary Box back in stock, the Tuscany Special Worker promo cards. That's something that is a little confusing because we've never actually had it on stock in our web store in the past. For many years, it's been only on the MeepleSource store, but we're trying to bring more of the promos that we typically have sold through MeepleSource. We're still selling them through MeepleSource. We have a great relationship with them, but we are trying to bring more of them over to our web store so people who want them can consolidate them with other stuff that they're buying from our web store. So for the first time, we have the Tuscany Special Worker promo cards available on our web store. We have the Red Rising Upgrade Pack available on our web store now. That's been out of stock for a while. Wingspan Asia came back in stock a few weeks ago, but I wanted to let people know. Between Two Cities Essential Edition, same thing there. That's back in stock. And the Tapestry Custom Insert, back in stock in a few web stores. If it isn't back in stock, or in fact, if any of these things aren't back in stock in your regional web store, make sure to sign up for a back in stock request on that web store for that specific product. That will signal to us how many we need to send to that web store. Because a lot of these products now, we don't need to carry a lot of them in our regional web stores, but once we see enough requests, even just a small number, maybe a dozen, then we will restock it. We'll ship it from the US to that web store, and then we'll ship to you, or we'll let you know that you can buy it from that regional web store. So you don't have to pay for shipping from the US, you just pay for shipping from that regional web store. I feel like I'm talking with my hands a lot today. Too much coffee already. Steve says his girlfriend and him played the duet mode of Wingspan Asia, and we both really enjoyed the duet mode of the game. I'm glad to hear that, Steve. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that mode is taken off. I've heard a few people playing with the flock mode, which I think is much less common, the 6 to 7 player mode. But a lot of people playing that duet mode. I love it. I love that duet mode. Kim says, thanks for always saying hi at Geekway. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I love seeing people at Geekway to the West. I had a wonderful time at the convention a couple weekends ago, and I hope you had a great time as well. What was the highlight of your convention, Kim, at Geekway this year? Kevin says, this weekend we played a quick round of Rolling Realms and a couple games of the Clank on the Ape Lords boards and Thanos, Katar Butts, and Thanos Rising. I see. Did you play anything over the long weekend? Mostly just disc golf, but I did play a round of sabacc, the Star Wars, the fictional game that's also a real game now in the Star Wars universe. Kind of a Star Wars poker, essentially. Tyler says he recently posted a picture on BGG and the Stonemaier Games Discord showing what I did with the extra gold cards after receiving the upgrade pack. Yeah, Tyler, I saw this. He says, has there been any other creative uses of these cards? Tyler posted a really beautiful, framed photo of many of the card backs and then a few of, I think, his favorite card fronts. It's on BGG now if you want to take a look, and the Stonemaier Games Discord. Have I seen any other creative uses of the Red Rising cards? Not like that. I don't think so. But I'd love to see more uses of cards. In fact, this is a great example, Tyler. A great time to ask this question because with us having like different versions of wingspan cards now, of Red Rising cards. Let me think if there's any other examples of that. Like multiple versions of cards. I think those are probably the only two examples that I can think of. It's neat to see what people do with the extra cards. I guess it also applies to boxes. So if you had this, if you had a copy of Scythe and you got the Scythe legendary box, then you don't really need the original Scythe box anymore. I love seeing people like hang those boxes on their walls or create collages of the cards that they no longer need, things like that. That's always really neat to see. And I hope people feel free to share that on the Facebook groups, on Discord, on BGG. I love seeing that kind of creativity. Tim says, are there any plans to have more Rolling Realms mini golf holes using promo cards? I've been playing through the solo holes lately and like how the objectives demonstrate different strategies for each card. Tim, this is actually exactly what we were doing with the Beyond the Realmiverse 4-chapter solo campaign. So this is what you're looking for now. This pack works with most promo realms, and it is very similar to the mini golf campaign that is not replayable. It's very similar to the mini golf campaign in that it gives you different challenges to accomplish during the campaign. So that is exactly, I kind of been holding this off for a while. A lot of people have asked about this. Will there be another campaign? Will there be another format? Can we use the promo realms? And this is the answer to it. The Beyond the Realmiverse 4-chapter solo replayable campaign offers those styles of challenges from the mini golf course, but in a replayable campaign mode that works with a lot of the promo realms now. Yeah. Chris says he just moved to Arizona from Wisconsin. Lots of travel time in the car, about 2,000 miles. That is a huge trip, Chris. He says, most of my games are sitting in the storage back in Wisconsin until I find a new home in Arizona, but excited to hear about the new realms for Rolling Realms. I'm glad the trip went well, Chris. That is quite a trip, and I hope you find what you're looking for down in Arizona. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Arizona. I need to go to the Grand Canyon someday, but I know there's a lot more in Arizona as well. Chet says, I've watched the one-stop co-op shop solo play of Expeditions. Yes, so advanced copy reviewers now have Expeditions, and they're starting to reveal content for it. They can post whatever they want, except for reviews. I like to give them extra time. I don't want reviewers to feel like they need to be the first to publish a review, that sort of thing. And so that's why you'll start to see reviews the week of June 12th and beyond. But up until then, you can see reviewers talking about what the game is and how it plays, and the one-stop co-op shop playthrough is an example of that. Chet says, I'm happy to discover that I underestimated the feel of exploration theme, the exploration theme you included in the game. Searching for quest locations will definitely be my first strategy to try. And that is really satisfying to get quest cards and then try to find the locations to match them so that you can complete those quests or solve the quest in the game. Julie says, what do you look for when you consider new realms to add to Rolling Realms? Are there any basic requirements you hope to see in any new realm? Julie, this is a good question. I have two different answers for it. First, I'll answer your question, which is, what are we looking for? Overall, the core structure we look for in realms is that you can explain how the realm works in around 3 or 4 lines, plus 2 lines at the bottom to explain how to get stars. So text, got to be short text. We're also looking for realms that give players between 8 and 12 resources, typically. And that can vary a little bit too, but typically it's between 8 and 12. And also, we're looking for ways that the realms can give players all 6 stars. So within around 9 turns, what's the range? Within 8 to 10 turns to get all 6 stars. And some resources along the way. So those are kind of the general guidelines we're looking for. The other thing I should mention though, Julie, is that at this point we have so many realms built up that I don't know if we're necessarily looking for new realms at this point, at least not new realms to publish. However, I don't want that to stifle the creativity from anyone out there. Last week I played through game 50, which was all fan-created realms. I had a blast. I think that's a lot of fun. We can continue that tradition in the future. So I hope people do feel like they can still continue to create fan-created realms that I can play on every 10th live play. I want to continue to do that for sure. But I just want to set kind of clear expectations that it's fairly unlikely that given how many promo realms we have already created, they're in my closet back there. We're ready to publish them. We're just trying to spread them out a little bit. that it's unlikely that we'll publish new realms that we haven't already worked on. So I just want to put that out there too. Yeah. John says, excited for expeditions to be delivered. Yeah, I posted an update about this in the e-newsletter that we're looking for fulfillment to start in mid-July, maybe even a little bit earlier in certain regions, but production is complete on the first wave. He says, reading the flavor text on the achievement log makes me think that Expeditions has some Lovecraftian influences. Is this true? Jakob is he works in interesting ways. I don't know exactly if he was inspired by Lovecraft. Certainly has some tentacles that I think might come from some inspirations there, but Jakob kind of just mashes together all this stuff in his subconscious, and this is what comes out. So basically, this is the story that Jakob wanted to tell in Expeditions, in the sequel to Scythe. And from my perspective, from my outside perspective, yeah, I can see some Lovecraftian stuff there. I don't know for sure, though, if that was actually an inspiration for Jakob in what he created. Nazi says, good morning. Will we ever see Scythe Duel, a simpler two-player version only? I appreciate you asking that. But no, we won't see that. I have bookended, I've completed everything that you'll ever see in Scythe, and Expeditions is kind of the answer to that question. What else will we see in the Scythe world? That is Expeditions. So the continuation of the Scythe world is Expeditions itself, and so there won't ever be any new Scythe content. We've completed all Scythe stuff. Steven says, I've been playing a lot of Concordia lately and falling in love with it all over again. Concordia was a major influence on Expeditions. He says it's a 2013 game, but it still feels so modern, smooth, and deep. Have you ever met Mac Gertz? Is he still active? I don't think I've ever interacted with Mac, so no, not that I know of. I will say I have a game on my desk from a company that I really admire, Thundergriff. Darwin's Journey. Just got to play this last night. This reminded me a little bit of Concordia in that it's a kind of a medium to heavyweight Euro game with fairly streamlined mechanisms once you understand them. I think Concordia is maybe a little bit easier to jump into and start playing. But I had a good time with my first play of Darwin's Journey last night. Played that with Miles and Jess at a friend's game night. Kim says he's being one of the lucky groups who got to play Expeditions and Earth. Yeah, they were checked out of the Geekway library quite a bit, but I'm glad you had the chance to try Expeditions and Earth while you were there at Geekway. Trishul says, is there any way to distinguish the new printing of the Scythe modular board from the old ones that may be on some online stores? No, there really isn't. It's the same barcode. I can say that it looked like for a while that no stores had the modular board. We kind of waited until we flushed out all the old copies before we made the new copies. The only difference between the two that I can recall right now off the top of my head is that there were, I think we added better borders to the tiles or the printed places on the board that have tunnels on them. I believe we added borders to them. I think that was it. And maybe there was one little icon that ended up being a little askew on a few of the locations, but nothing in terms of gameplay has changed between the two versions. JB says he's excited to see the new discs in the European store. And yeah, we continue to send, like we usually send like one, whenever we restock the European store, the Canadian store, the Australia store with another product, then we'll often include some discs in that package. So we'll probably do that fairly soon if we get some back in stock requests for some other products. Let's see, Julie says that she got to try some of the fan-created cards that Travis and Jacob posted in the Wingspan Facebook group. Yeah, they posted a whole batch of a lot of new bonus cards from what I saw in the Facebook group. And she said the ones that we used had some fun challenges. She says, I'll be interested to see if any of the ideas get picked up in a future expansion. I know Elizabeth pays attention to a lot of that stuff, so we'll see if she decides to incorporate any of those ideas, giving credit where credit is due, as always, of course, in any of the new expansions. Steve says, do you need all the promo realms for the new campaign in Rolling Realms? No, good question. So this pack is designed to be used with a variety of promo realms. Not really any specific promo realms, just a variety of them. There are a few realms that don't work with the pack, but most of them do work. And you can see the rulebook online to see which ones do or do not work. Corel has also noted which ones don't work in the living rulebook, so you can see that as well. But yeah, it's you don't need all the realms. You just need the realms that you want to play with, basically. Yeah. Tim says, are outside publishers typically on board with Stonemaier making promo Rolling Realms cards of their properties? Have there been any that rejected the idea yet? So what we do whenever we make one of these new promo realms based on another publisher's game is that I contact the publisher personally. I explain that we're going to do all the work. All we need from them is for them to sign an agreement to say they give us permission, for them to give me their PayPal information so I can send them money to thank them for the permission. And it's not a royalty, it's just a one-time flat payment that they can use for the designer of the game. They can keep it themselves, it's whatever they want. Or even the fan designer, if it was a realm designed by a fan. We also try to pay the fan designers a little bit if the publisher doesn't want to do that. And I asked for the art, so we can put the art in kind of the background. Well, that's Expeditions. Here's like the Skull Hollow art. So I try to make it as easy as possible for them. But some have said no. I won't name some names here, but some of there's two in particular that major publishers, a game that a lot of people really wanted. Actually three, I can think of three off the top of my head, who were I was hoping to make realms for, but they all said no. So I try to make it really easy for people to say yes. Sometimes I don't hear back from people at all, and some people do say no. So it definitely has happened. I see it as a win-win-win. Like, I'm promoting their game through the realm. The realm in no way replaces the full game. I'm paying them to do it, and we're doing all the work, so they don't have to do anything. They don't spend any of their time on it other than signing the permission form. But yeah, they still say no sometimes. I respect their decision. Got plenty of other realms that we can work on and highlight those games instead. Damien says, I'm looking forward to the new solo campaign for Rolling Realms. I just recently reviewed Rolling Realms on his channel and mentioned that I really wish there was a way to utilize the new realms in solo and alluded to thinking there was a new solo campaign coming out. So yeah, Damien, that's perfect timing. And thank you so much for reviewing Rolling Realms on your channel. I really appreciate that. Let me see if there's any topics that I need to cover before I focus on questions. Lots of questions here. Last week I watched the Survivor finale. I don't know if anyone else, any Survivor fans out there, but I invited some friends over to watch the finale. We had a blast watching it. I love Survivor, and this finale, it was kind of a nicer finale. I don't like the finales where the jury and Survivor is really jaded and mean, and this jury wasn't. They were asked really great questions. They were just looking for the best survivor, and I think the best survivor won. Sometimes hard to tell, but yeah, it was a really, really fun season to watch and a fun finale. I often ask you a question. I haven't asked you a question yet today, but my question today is, how do you use wish lists for shopping of anything? But wish lists that give information to the publisher or the company. Like I have a wish list on Amazon. I have a wish list on Miniature Market. I have one on Steam. Do you use wish lists for products, and what inspires you to put something on a wish list? We've experimented in the past with putting a wish list on our web store, but we haven't found an app that we were really happy with. But it's a topic that's been on my mind a little bit recently, and I want to see how people use wish lists and what inspires them to actually put something on their wish list. Tom says, Smitten and Rolling Realms are filler-esque games. Any plans to publish any more filler games? Smitten is definitely an exception to all the rules that we make. I mean, it's a two-player only game. It's a cooperative game, which we don't usually publish. Not that I'm against competitive games or cooperative games, but it's a little different. Rolling Realms, I would say, can be considered an event game because it can play around 30 to 45 minutes if you're playing all three rounds. So I would say no. We typically focus on event games, so that's 45 to 90 minute games that are the meat of game night. I wouldn't say that fillers are our focus or will be our focus in the future. Adam says, did I miss the Scythe Legendary box already? I've been refreshing since yesterday, but it's still showing out of stock for me in Europe. Yeah, Adam, it's not. I think it might be still back on the way to Europe. I will send Joe a note just in case he meant to restock that. But if it hasn't quite arrived yet, then it will arrive quite soon. Just make sure to sign up for a back in stock notification and we'll let you know. I'll leave Joe a note about that real quick. I think Joe mentioned that to me recently, but I think we're probably on track to put that back in stock very soon. Good morning, Josh. Tony says, last week you were commenting on the small size of the text on one of the Rolling Realms cards. I was waiting for you to bust out the Stonemaier Games magnifying glass. I think I kind of needed it on that realm. George used very, very small text on it. That was hard for me to read, but we got through it. Let's see. Trishul says, are there any fan-created Tapestry civilizations that caught your attention? If so, what do they do? I think there have been a few that have inspired published Tapestry civs, but I can't think of any Tapestry civs that we haven't published. Not that they didn't catch my eye, I just haven't focused on them. But there are a few interesting ones out there. I don't know them by name. Let's see. Carell says that Matt Gertz is still very active. He's a very loyal attender of the yearly Essen Spiel show, and he can be found on the PD Verlag booth, at the PD Verlag booth, teaching people his games. He's a great guy. That's awesome, Carell. Thank you for sharing that. I held up Darwin's Journey a few minutes ago. If people were commenting how they're excited to try that, I'm excited to talk about it in a video, maybe today. Recorded today, posted in the future. John says, with Scythe bookended and complete and Expeditions coming out now with the assumption that it will have a few expansions, we'll see. I don't know if that's a safe assumption yet, John. We'll have to see what the reception to the game is, if people want expansions, what they want from expansions. He says, do you think Jakob's 1920 plus universe will continue once the full Expedition cycle is complete? I don't think so. I think Jakob has other worlds to explore. I have other things that I want to explore. And yeah, I don't think so. But I said that about Scythe too. You know, I thought that I wouldn't return to that universe and that Jakob wouldn't return to it after Scythe. And then a few years later, we return to it. So I know that Scythe is done. I know that for sure. Expeditions, I think it's completely possible there will be one or more expansions to the game. But I don't know what will happen after that. My guess right now is that will be it. That will be it after that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. So Miles mentioned that he's excited to see the Solo Realm art come together. Miles did the art for the Beyond the Realmiverse solo 4-chapter replayable campaign. Yeah, Miles, I'm excited to share that with you in the near future. Dave is picking it up from the Miniature Market Fulfillment Center. So yeah, if you get I should say this to everyone, if you order in the US and you get a notification message from Miniature Market, that's because we work with Miniature Market for their fulfillment center. They do our fulfillment and warehousing for us now. So that can be a little confusing. We're trying to get a little bit more control over what that notification says, so it's very clear it's your Stonemaier Games order, but for now, I'll just let you know that. Kevin says, you wear many hats within Stonemaier Games. What role do you enjoy the most or is the most fulfilling for you? And Kevin, honestly, variety, I think, is the key to my happiness here at Stonemaier Games. I do wear a lot of hats: project management, marketing, communications, some customer service, troubleshooting. A lot of my job is troubleshooting, design, development, content creation. And the key for me is that I love the variety. If I was just doing one of those things, and I really can't highlight just one of those things, but if I was just doing one of those things, I don't think I'd nearly be as happy as I am right now, bouncing around between a bunch of different things every day. So yeah, the hat that I enjoy the most is the hat that's multicolored, that includes many of these different elements that I get to do in my job every day and every week. Trishul says he's looking forward to trying Antique Duelum, one of Matt Gertz's older games. Did you try any of his other designs like Navigador? I think I played Navigador, but it's been a while. You have to help me out, Trishul, and name some of his other games. I don't know them offhand from the designer, but I certainly may have played them. I could look them up right now, but I'm a little behind on questions. So yeah, let me know some of his other famous games, and I will let you know if I've played them. Jerry says he's looking to try out Scotland Yard per my recommendation. Yeah, I love Scotland Yard. It's one of the few games from my childhood that I still get excited to play now. He says, I saw a new Sherlock Holmes edition released last year where you're the detective hunting down Moriarty. Have you had a chance to try out this edition? I have not. No, I've only played the original edition that I have of Scotland Yard. And I do really like the simplicity of it, so I don't really want many other layers, but if it only adds a few small things, I might be curious about it. Chet says, I know you typically like to be actively designing at least 2 games at a time, and often specifically 2 games at a time. More than that, and it's almost too much. He says, with Expeditions finishing up, how many games are you personally designing at this time? Do you have a sweet spot number of active designs? Yeah, the sweet spot is 2, and right now I am designing two games. Yeah, so I'm right at my sweet spot right now. Let's see. Carol says, do you have any promo realm combinations that you have found particularly fun and or efficient? Ooh, that's a good question. Often in the moment when I'm playing them, Carol, I'm like, oh, wow, this combination works really well. Here's a resource generous realm or an easier realm combined with a harder realm. Off the top of my head, though, I just like the variety. And here's actually, so the next set of realms I'm going to play is the 3 combination, is the Tricarian, Skull Hollow, and Parks. You can see them right here. So I'm excited to see how they combo together. Whenever beyond introducing a new set of realms, I always just shuffle up all the realms and reveal 3 new ones for each combination. So what I'll do oftentimes, Carol, is I'll sit down and I'll plan for like the next few weeks of playthroughs. And so I'll shuffle up all the realms, reveal 3, 3, 3, and then 3, 3, 3. And then I'm getting to the point with the number of realms that we have that I might need to plan 3 ahead because I want to be able to use all the realms. I don't want any realms to kind of get stuck in the pile and never be seen. So it's always randomized, and it's often just in the moment when I'm playing it where I'm like, oh, this is a really fun combination. I can't think of any off the top of my head, though. Okay, I asked a question about wish lists, and Chad has the first answer. He says, I have wish lists on Amazon and Miniature Market. I basically use it as a reminder to buy something when it goes on sale, when I'm really needing it, or when I need to treat myself. I like that. Three requirements: sale, when I need it, or when I need to treat myself. I often use wish list as just a reminder that there's a game that I'm not quite ready to buy yet, or a thing that I'm not ready to buy yet, but that it's just a way for me to remember it. So I guess I could use a private wish list for that, but I often just use these public wish lists instead. And sometimes they're for back in stock, or actually one of the big questions I would ask about wish lists here is for a product. When do you use wish lists for products that have not been released yet? Which I think isn't something that many stores do, but Steam does it. Miniature Market does it for sure. But yeah, for a product that you hear about that has not been released yet, how do you use wish lists for that? Corey from Blue Falcon Board Gaming popping in to say hi. He has a question about something that Josh and him were talking about. Do you experience post-convention depression? And if so, what do you do for self-care afterwards? If it's rough leaving 4 days of board gaming joy to return to work. I could definitely relate to that. I go from this high of gaming and being around a ton of people and playing just games nonstop to coming back to kind of the real world of all the other responsibilities that you need to deal with. I felt this also after the Star Wars Star Cruiser experience that I went on. How do I deal with it? Well, I can say first that I relate to it, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. I think that's very normal to come back and feel that way, to feel like real life isn't quite as exciting as convention life, for sure. And I think part of it is just acknowledging that it is different, that this is real life and it is different. It's no less lustrous than the convention life, but it is a different feeling, a different experience. Acknowledging that and sitting with that and maybe trying to tie the two together a little bit and reaching out to those people that made that convention experience special and letting them know that it made you feel special and reminiscing a little bit with them, keeping that connection alive while also moving forward with the responsibilities that you have every day. So that's a very partial answer, but that's some of the ways that I've dealt with that. Especially after the Star Cruiser experience, a lot of the ways that helped me transition was talking to my friends who went on that experience with me and sharing how I was feeling and just kind of remembering with them how good of a time we had. And knowing that they kind of felt the same way made me feel a lot better. That really helped me move forward, I think. Molly says that she really likes wish lists. They help me remember about items for later and periodically check for sales when I don't want to pay full price for certain items. Yeah, I need to take notes on this because I'm hearing the for sales. I can definitely relate to that. Release reminders. Gavin says regarding wish lists, the main reason I would use one is to receive a notification when items go on sale. Steam does this well, and Amazon can do this with a third-party site called Camel. I have bird game wish lists on BGG and various friendly little game sites, but maintaining them seems more trouble than it's worth. Yeah, that's one of the tricky things about wish lists, isn't it? That if you have one for a bunch of different places, you can forget to check them. And I really like wish lists that have notifications. I think that really helps, where you don't have to go check the wish list. The wish list will notify you when something important happens, when it's back in stock. I'll write that down. So I guess we do have that on our web store, different type of wish list. What we don't have though is if you go to our web store and you see a product that we have in stock and you're not ready to buy it yet, what do you do? How do you remember that it's a thing that you might want to buy in the future, or if it goes on sale in the future? We don't really have that. Hey Elizabeth, good to see you here today. John says wish list. He typically uses a wish list to earmark something he wants to buy, typically something that is not a necessity, so I wait for current disposable money to be plentiful enough to justify the purchase. So earmarking future desires. He says, I also like it when a wish list alerts me to sales or other price drops on the item. Yeah, notifications, especially for discounts. Yeah. Thank you so much for this feedback. I'm talking about wish lists and what compels you to sign up for a wish list, what you've seen work well for wish list, and especially wish lists for products that aren't available yet. That's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot. Trishul says it would be cool if board game online stores can work with BGG to automatically import our BGG wish list and keep us updated on stocks. And that's a great point about the BGG wish lists, which I haven't used all that much. Trishul, tell me a little bit more about the Board Game Geek wish list. Do they notify you automatically when something is released or available? What's the notification side of those wish lists? So Carol says that Carol, you can answer this too. Carol has a BGG wish list. I like how you can prioritize games on it. There's a thinking about option I use for anything I slightly consider to just keep track. But there's must have and love to have. Okay, that's really neat that you can categorize them in different ways. That's really cool. Julie has 2 uses for wish lists. One, to remind me of games, products, etc. that I noticed I want to look at more into, sort of a private reminder list. Yeah, or more research. Okay. And 2, to list potential gift ideas for me, since I always get questions about these as holidays, birthdays approach. Admittedly, I don't usually buy things for myself off wish lists unless they are necessities. Yes. So gift lists, essentially. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I use that in a way for like which games I want to play Geekway. That's one way that it's not really a wish list, but it's a games that I wish to play at Geekway. Tim says, what is your favorite Scythe faction symbol? My favorite symbol in Scythe. Yeah. I usually play red in games, so I like red icons just for the color. But for the iconology design, I really like the Albion design, actually. I have a shirt with the Albion design. I really like that one. Elizabeth says that the Beyond the Realmiverse package art reminds me a little bit of Doctor Who. Yeah, this is the art from Miles Bensky. It does have a little bit of that Doctor Who feel to it. Derek says, what are the steps to getting the rights to making a board game for something like The Last of Us? Good question, Derek. That's a big thing to get, rights for. I think in general, it's if you see a property like that, the rights might already be locked up somewhere. But if you want to try, if you want to see if they are available, reach out to the company that publishes who owns the rights to it, and sometimes reach out to their agent. So if it's like an author of a book that you really admire, reach out to their literary agent or their publisher to see if the rights are available. For The Last of Us, yeah, I think you would go directly to the video game publisher of The Last of Us and see if the board game rights are available. Steve says, I'm a bad influence because he just ordered some promos and the new solo campaign. I think that's a good influence, Steve. You get to play some wonderful promo realms for Rolling Realms. Tony says, a wish list is only useful to me if it notifies him if something on his list goes in sale or is back in stock after being sold out. Otherwise, it's just a feeling. It's just feeding into his fear of missing out. I can definitely see that, Tony. Tom says, random question. Random questions are totally fine here today. He says, if you had been given the chance to publish Ark Nova, would you have published it, and would you have changed anything about it? Interesting question. Well, probably would have published it. Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with Ark Nova the first time I played it. It is a little heavier than the games that we typically publish, but It fits a lot of our design philosophies. The one thing I would have to change, though, is it doesn't play up to 5 players. And so I would add a 5th player, which would add playing time to Arc Nova, but turns in Arc Nova are pretty darn streamlined. I think it flows pretty well. So, and I don't think you even need to add that many components. It would change a few things about the game, sure, to add a 5th player, but it only plays up to 4 players. So that would be the main thing that I would change. I don't think I would change much other than that. I'm really excited about the expansion, though. It sounds like they've addressed some concerns that some people had about the core game. I didn't really share those concerns, but it looks like they're adding some cool things. So I have that expansion pre-ordered. Carol says that Molly and I played around with just the 3 new realms since we picked them up at Geekway. It is definitely a puzzle with spending resources on Skull Hollow. Yeah, any realm that requires you to spend resources on it to get stars is a tricky puzzle. Mark says, can we have 5 new realms after Expeditions promo realms? Delayed 2 realms to complete sets of 3s. Well, Mark, the key to keep in mind here is that even though we do release realms in sets of 3s, we also release new realms every time we release a new game. You mentioned Expeditions. And so the number of realms overall will end up being even every 3rd game that we release. And so releasing 5 new realms would have us off track again the next time that we have a new game. So I don't know how many realms exactly that we have released right now, but every 3 new games will have an exact trifecta of new realms to try out. Steven says, I discovered this month that I am horrible at Rogers of the Ganges, but I really want to play it more. Is there a game that you're horrible at that you keep wanting to play? I'm horrible at a lot of games, but maybe not horrible. I don't win at many games, many specific games. That's an interesting observation. This is a question for anyone to answer. Is there any game that you are not good at, that you hardly ever or have never won at, and yet you still love the game? You're still compelled to play it. Let me see if there's anything on my shelf that I am particularly... that I played, let's say, at least 5 times. I played at least 5 times and never won. Let's see if there's a game like this on my shelf. I'm not good at Lost Ruins of Arnak. I really enjoy the game, but I'm not good at it. Yeah, that one might jump out at me as one that I might put at the top of my list. Yeah, that's one that's standing out to me. Lost Ruins of Arnak is one. And Dune Imperium. I love Dune Imperium. I think I've only won maybe once, maybe twice, but I have won that game. Nathan says he uses Wishlist on Amazon to remember games that really look good but maybe aren't getting a lot of attention right now. I can see that. Yeah, games that you hear about. Maybe you hear a random reviewer pull an older game off their shelf and talk about it, and but it isn't something that pops up in your feed all that often. I can see that. Tom says I use an Amazon Wishlist, but actually, if it's on my wish list for longer than 6 months, I take it off. If I don't want it after 6 months, I don't need it. That's a really interesting way to go, Tom. Similar to how I use my gaming shelf. If I haven't played a game in over a year, that's a signal to me that I'm probably not going to play it for another year, and I want to give it away to someone else who is excited to play it. Yeah, I like that approach to culling wish list after a certain amount of time, or putting like a timer on them. If you haven't bought a game by this amount of time, you remove it. Kevin says, I use a Kindle wish list on Amazon so I remember which books I want to read. That's all I can think of right now. Kevin, yeah, I'll say this is a little weird with Kindle. So I read on a Kindle. I really like reading on a Kindle. And I don't use a Kindle wish list, but I do love downloading the samples of books. So I really like that on Kindle. I kind of use that as my wish list in my Kindle, the little samples. However, you can't get a sample, and you can't even reserve a sample, as far as I know, for a book that hasn't been released yet. So for a book that hasn't been released, I often have to leave a reminder on my calendar to say, hey, go to Amazon and download the sample on this Tuesday in November, so you can see if you want this book. So that's something I wish Amazon offered that option of like a future sample reservation. I'd really like that option on Amazon. Molly was talking about the 3 new realms that we have, the combination of them, which she played at Geekway with Carol. She says, I really like how 2 of the 3 new realms interacted with double rolls too, one positively and one negatively. Yeah, that's something I want to do a little bit more often, or that we're going to see more often in the realms that we've already made, how rolling doubles can mean something in the realm. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I'm going to make a note about Kindle samples and wish list. Nathan says, you mentioned that there were a lot of realms in the queue. You had released a picture of the realms stacked up. How many are still left, if that's not a spoiler? It is kind of a spoiler, but it's also that I don't actually know the number offhand. In my head, I have it as a few dozen. I think there are at least a few dozen realms that we have not released yet, that we are actively working on, or have already produced and just haven't released yet. Carol says, I taught and played Challengers 2-player with her son over the weekend. He loved it and keeps asking to play it. I found it only okay at 2 players. This is a game that I played at Geekway with 8 players, including Carol, but I haven't played it at 2 yet. She says it just wasn't as exciting without a group. With a group, you're moving around, you're challenging a bunch of different players, not just one player. But it does work. It is functional, at least, at 2 players. She says, I haven't tried the odd number yet, but it looks like it adds an AI deck to play against, so I'll just have to try that to see if it's annoying. I've heard you use that for, odd player counts. I also just saw today that Challengers 2 has been announced and might be released at Essen this year. So that's exciting. Add new cards to the game, or also be a standalone game. Steven says, I put stuff on his BGG wish list that I'm too cheap to buy, and then I'll email a link to my family before Christmas. Yeah, so that's similar to what Molly said about the gift list. Personal gift list. Jeff says, are there any particular themes that you have not used for a game but would like to incorporate into a future design? The 2 big ones that come to mind that I love are time travel / time loop and heist theme games. I love the heist theme in fiction, and time travel, time loop, one of my favorite fictional themes. I've dabbled with them a tiny little bit in some of our games, like Tapestry has mentions of time travel, but haven't designed a full game based around those themes. So, those are themes that I really love and might want to explore in the future. Damien says, my main wish list is on BoardGameGeek, and I do have wish lists on various store sites, but I don't often manage to combine them with the various sites, so some will have games that others don't. I choose wish list just to remember games that I'm interested in. That seems to be a commonality here. Just to, you hear about a game and then you want to remember that you heard about the game, but you're just not ready to buy it at that point in time. Carol says, I don't think there's a way to get notifications from the BGG wish list. Okay. Chad says, I think wish lists could be improved if you could connect to others' wish lists. That's a neat idea. Connect to others. He says, if your friends are looking for gift options for you, kind of an online registry. Actually, Amazon does kind of do that, or Amazon does do that. You can make your wish list public on Amazon, and anyone can go search for what you want. Kind of like wedding registries as well. Those are, I'll use that as an example, wedding registries. They can be made public. The connection, when you originally said that, I was thinking about connection more like how on Kickstarter, if you have a friend that backs a game, you can get a notification about that. That would be kind of neat to see when a friend adds something to their wish list. You might be like, oh, I'll check out this product or this game that they're thinking about buying. That might work. It might be too much. Might be too many notifications, but it could be consolidated into like a weekly or monthly digest. Corey says, so someone asked about The Last of Us earlier, and Corey says that Themeborn is actually coming out with a Last of Us board game. The Kickstarter was wrapping up as HBO is still releasing episodes. I thought I had seen something like that on Kickstarter. Thank you, Corey, for remembering that. Steve says, what do you think of the new scoring rules the developers updated for Arc Nova? New scoring rules. I don't think I'm familiar with this. Steve, tell me more about that. I'm not... Oh, is it that you can't get negative scores now? You just... I think it's the same thing, right? But you just record it differently. Like you add them together for your final score or something. Let me refresh my memory on that. I heard something about that, but I can't remember it. People are talking about games that they... Okay, so some games that people are love playing but are not good at. Clank is mentioned here. Corey has too many to name. Carol says Heat. Still really want to play Heat, Carol. I haven't gotten to play that yet. Chad says, it's okay not to win Dune Imperium because when you do, it's oh so good. It's quite the achievement to win that game. It definitely does feel good when you win that game. Susanna says, we have released 16 promo packs so far, including Beyond the Romaverse and Mini Golf, which is its own realm based on the Mini Golf solo campaign. And she says, this doesn't include the Expeditions realm, which is still in pre-order. So with Expeditions, I'll subtract Beyond the Romaverse and I'll add Expeditions. So that'll make it. So currently we have 15 released right now. Expeditions will make it 16. Beyond the Realmverse is in a category of its own. Julie says this isn't exactly sales related, but her Libby audiobook queue has books I've seen recently and want to read. I like that you can request books that are not yet published so that you're in line to get one when it comes out. That's cool that Libby does that. I'll mention that in reference to the Kindle. Elizabeth says, have you already pre-ordered the 6th book in the Red Rising series? So excited. I have, although I'm glad you said that. So I think I can say this. I have an advanced reader copy of the Red Rising book, the 6th book. Pierce was very kind to send it to me so that I could read it and start to maybe get ideas for what to do next with the Red Rising tabletop game series. And so, yeah, I hope it's okay to say that. But yeah, I have an advanced reader copy of it. So while I do have a pre-order, I don't actually need my pre-order anymore. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I'll go and take care of that after this livecast. But yeah, I am ready to read the advanced reader copy. I'm actually trying to finish up another book really fast, the Ferryman. I'm in the middle of the Ferryman. I'm going to forget everything about it if I stop reading it. But as soon as I'm done that, I'm going to read Red Rising Book 6, the advanced copy. Really excited to get into that and see what Pierce does with Book 6. Damien says he did a top 10 list on Merlin's Manor for games that are satisfying even when you lose. He says Dinogenics was the top of that list. So I have a similar list that's about games where you feel like you're building something. I think any game where you feel like you have built something over the course of the game can give you that sense of satisfaction, even if you lose. He says Dinogenics. I don't know if I would say I hardly ever win, but I certainly win less than I lose. I haven't played Dinogenics, but Damien, it sounds like I need to try that one based on your recommendation there. Julie says a time travel or heist game would be excellent. I love those types of books and movies. And maybe I'll just have to do a time travel heist game. Maybe combine the two and do them together. Let's see. Jody says, did you watch the new Quantum Leap? Speaking of time travel, I haven't watched the new Quantum Leap. Would you recommend it? I haven't actually watched any of the Quantum Leap series. I think there's an old one. There's a new one. But yeah, let me know if you'd recommend it. Tim says, you had mentioned in your most recent brief history video that Stonemaier is working to be more aware using sustainable packaging in their games. And I noticed these changes in viticulture world with less plastic being used. Was this also an active consideration for the upcoming Expeditions game? It was a consideration. I don't know if we did that good of a job with it. And I can't remember now so we're trying to use paper strips instead of shrink wrapping around cards. Doesn't always work, but when we have an insert, it should be the format for it. And I think that's the case in Expeditions. We're still trying to figure out shrink wrap around the outside of the box. We have moved for expansion boxes over to using stickers and using a special type of printing that doesn't use plastic in the printing. Apparently, a lot of printing for boxes uses plastic to protect them. Even you can't see it, but it's inside kind of the ink, inside of the printing itself, not the shrink wrap. And so for expansions, we don't do that at all anymore. You won't notice that, but we don't do it. But Expeditions does have plastic mechs. It does have a plastic insert. Those are things that are really tough to get rid of. Like we didn't need to provide a plastic insert for Expeditions, but it would have significantly decreased, I think, the how easy it is to get to the table, and I don't want to do that. So it's all about kind of a little bit of give and take there. But hopefully with Expeditions, that the cards use paper bands instead of shrink wrap in them, because that sort of shrink wrap is just immediately disposed of. There's no real point to that at all. Julie says on Amazon, you can also make other people co-contributors to your list, so you can choose either just to let others view it or letting others contribute. That is good to note, Julie. Thank you for letting me know about that. So Steve says for Arc Nova, the new scoring system, basically they added 100 points, but that's the gist of it. So you can't score. They're avoiding giving people a negative score, which I can see psychologically that's a little rough. You just played a whole game of Arc Nova, you built something awesome, and you scored -3 points. So I can see why they would change just psychologically the what your endgame score looks like. George says for him it's Scythe. He loves to play Scythe, but he's not good at it apparently, or doesn't win very often at least. Chad says, after searching through the new Zelda videos, were there any new mechanisms that stood out to you that you would like to incorporate into future games? I'm still watching through Zelda mechanisms. I don't want to give anything away about how Zelda is influencing my open world game. But any specific mechanisms? So one thing that I am thinking about that I think is interesting is that there's a new mechanism in the newest Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game where you can basically get out of a place by jumping through the ceiling. You can jump straight through the ceiling and move to the next floor or to solid ground. And this was originally not an ability for the game. This was an ability that the developers put in as a kind of a cheat code while they were working on the game to get out of a tight place so they could jump back to a place they needed to be. And they found it was so much fun and so useful that they ended up incorporating it into the game. And it makes things a lot friendlier for players. They don't have to backtrack as much, basically. And so backtracking, that's what I'm trying to get at here. That's something that I want to keep in mind in games where I am, if I am requiring players to, or I'm currently requiring players to backtrack through something they've already done, instead of asking them to do that, I might give them a shortcut to jump to another place. Sometimes I think it is important to kind of move through a space through a different perspective or move back through a space that you've already been through. But if it's tedious, then I want to get rid of tedium in games. So that's something that I'm thinking about, not that exact mechanism, but how it may relate to tabletop games. Zane says, did you announce already when the custom art Wingspan promos are being released? I don't really know yet. No, I haven't announced it, Zane, because I don't really know yet. We are going to print on them very soon, which means that it will probably be, at this point, it'll probably be early 2024. That's what we're currently looking at. But I don't know yet. It still depends on when exactly we go to print on them. We're working on a few final details between our graphic designers. Jeff says, thanks for mentioning last week that you're reading Justin Cronin's new book, The Ferryman. Yeah, that's the book that I'm working through. Didn't know he had one out, so I ordered it already. His Passage trilogy is fantastic. If you haven't read it, I have read it. Yeah, I love it. That's what made me pre-order The Ferryman Sight Unseen. I'd also suggest trying out the Hugh Howey Silo series. I have read a few of those books, and I'm curious to get into the Apple version of it, the TV version of it. I'm a little over time here. Let me see if there's any other questions I can scroll through real quick. Someone says they do recommend Quantum Leap. Jody says they do recommend that. Here's one other. Mark says, for the Tapestry Civ adjustments, are there experimental Civ adjustments that are private information, or is everything public? Everything on the Google Doc is public. So there's a public Google Doc that I link to very publicly. That is very public information. If, Mark, you were part of the proofreading team who saw the final typeset versions of the new Tapestry Civs, that is not public. This definitely is not public. So thanks for checking about that. I think that's everything for today. I didn't go into, I had a great conversation last week about making our submission platform or submission program, or how people submit games to us basically on our website. I did a review of that to make sure that we are not including any subconscious or unconscious biases in that process, and that we are not being gatekeepers beyond the standard kind of, filtering out games that aren't a good fit for Stonemaier games, but not gatekeeping people from entering the hobby, or designers who are trying to enter the hobby for the first time, who might have a game that could be truly compelling for us. So I know I'm doing broad strokes overview of this, but I had a great chat about that last week. I meant to mention that we did review our submission process to make sure that there are no biases on our part in terms of the types of people that are submitting games to us. We want it to be completely blind, and yet we also included or added a new question to the form where if people want to highlight something special about themselves or their background or their game, then they can do so. We work with designers as people. It's a people-to-people process, a person-to-person process. So if we want to work with awesome people. So if there's something awesome about yourself that you want to highlight as part of the submission process when you're submitting a game to us, that question is now on our submission form. Anyway, thank you all for joining me for this e-newsletter chat. This was a fun one to jump into, talking about wish lists, and a lot of other topics today. Thanks for joining in. I'll post this on YouTube and answer questions there if anyone has anything to follow up with, any follow-up thoughts or questions or thoughts about wish lists. And I will see you next Wednesday. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.